humans are making more waste than ever before.
Stopping CCP from spying and brainwashing 170 million Americans was something both parties agreed on.
Despite being one of the biggest players in the biggest scam in US history, resulting in billions of dollars in losses for average people, tens of thousands of lost jobs, and executives reaping in billions, Skilling is out of jail and free to start again.
From the first time that I do anything, I'm not expecting to survive anything more than 2 days. To me, it's obvious. If they can't see it after 2 days, then who says they're going to see it after 200 days, 500 days, 1,000 days?
If you rewind back a few years, Mark Zuckerberg was one of the most hated men in America.
Don't lie to a client! You should not lie to a client and defraud them!
Try and explain to someone every day what freedom of speech means, particularly in the context of comedy, and particularly in the context of a joke.
Webb's most ambitious mission, the Advanced Deep Extragalactic Survey.
Well, we've discovered the most distant galaxy in the universe, the one that is the furthest away from us that we currently know about.
How Albrecht Dietrich became Jack Barsky is one of the untold stories of the Cold War, an era when the real battles were often fought between the CIA and the KGB.
You don't build an empire selling sugar water by telling people the truth.
And the very first automobiles were slowly spreading around the globe.
Germany's currency became essentially worthless. During the winter, it was actually cheaper to burn your cash to stay warm than it was to buy firewood. The German people were desperate for something to change, and this was exploited by the Nazi Party. Russia's most valuable state assets were sold at a tiny fraction of what they were really worth.
Here are the richest companies in the world, $3.05 trillion. In the realm of technological innovation, one company stands head and shoulders above the rest.
The authorities are remaining relatively tight-lipped on the situation, so this story may change a lot in the future.
Is it possible that a strange and deadly power truly lies within these three boundaries?
Norway's small population clusters learned early on to cooperate together on shipbuilding and construction for all of their common benefit.
9/11 type events happen pretty much every day in the Middle East, Africa, and in poor Asian nations.
In 2021, California passed a law that merely required the makers of sanitary wipes to label their products with a "do not flush" warning. Research shows that 80% of Indian sewage workers die before the age of 60.
वो नीचे जाएगा, वो अंदर तो पूरा गैस है, वो हाँ भाई पूरा देश में होना चाहिए, ये तो अच्छा है ना.
There's countless amounts of evidence about CCP tracking their citizens and punishing them if they ever get out of line.
For the thousands of people who held Enron stock, the market was frozen at the $32 mark, and when it reopened, it was $9 a share. Meanwhile, Enron executives had a fire sale of all of their stock. In the banking industry, the Barings name was respected. It was the safest of all banks, and they could raise capital very easily. Though, behind the scenes, its operations were struggling to keep up with the modern banking world.
Now put yourself in the shoes of a billionaire, and you'll see the problem that Mark Zuckerberg has. Think about all the prosecutors, the judges, the senators, the congressmen that are just salivating at the mouth for an opportunity to be the hero that takes down this evil villain.
You generally have an ethical obligation to do some pro bono work during the year so you can help those who can't afford the large fees that most law firms command.
You could be a little child, a little Asian child with no possessions and no money, but you see a picture of Angelina Jolie and you think, oh, Mummy.
All the Apollo moon missions were launched atop huge Saturn V rockets. At the time, the most powerful in the world. NASA's new rocket is even more muscular.
Spy. We use a euphemism. I was going to be a scout for peace.
A KGB scout for peace.
That is correct. The communist spies were the good guys and the capitalist spies were the evil ones, so we didn't use the word spy.
Soldiers were so thankful for Coke sending them a taste of home during the hell of war that they became the drink's biggest advocates. The US military basically became a Coca-Cola sales force.
During his time at Bella Egger, Ferdinand Porsche built the company's first electric wheel hub motor.
So the British Army tasked Major Ivan Hurst with the administration of the Volkswagen factory. Ivan was a British Army officer and engineer, but he was just 29 years old at the time. And when he got a tour of what remained after the bombing, Ivan knew saving Volkswagen was going to be very complicated. And so, because of this bribery and corruption, a small pool of already wealthy individuals ended up owning most of Russia's most important industries, and thus had control of the banks, oil, gas, mining, and media.
As the demand for high-performance GPUs grew, NVIDIA seized the opportunity and expanded its product line. They ventured into the professional graphics market, providing powerful solutions for industries such as film production, scientific research, and artificial intelligence.
I read and I watched far too much of these guys talking about AI. We're already seeing plans to replace human nurses with AI.
Almost as soon as AI started going uber mainstream from late 2022, a lot of people immediately likened the phenomenon to the dot-com bubble, or even the crypto fiasco.
Donald Trump dropping by the neighborhood for a stew pan. Look how comfortable he seems.
The Norwegian oil fund steadily evolved from nothing in 1990 into the absolute behemoth that it is today. Currently, the fund is by far the largest sovereign wealth fund in the entire world.
Every time international lenders offer Ukraine money, they add a few things they want changed to the fine prints, like better conditions for international investors, deregulation of industries, reducing government subsidies, more privatization of state-owned companies.
The oil fund is currently so massive relative to Norway's small population that it's worth approximately $275,000 per Norwegian citizen.
In the first 2 months of the invasion, Ukraine paid almost $700 million to its creditors, money that could have gone to help the people of Ukraine if their foreign debt was forgiven.
Humans tend to be overzealous about a new revolutionary technology. We overestimate and overshoot its impact, hype it up until the market crashes.
And as AI gets better and better, it's only going to make it more difficult to separate fact from fiction, which could be terrifying.
And after the crash, the real companies with the real value come through and spearhead the development of the new technology until it's mature.
We are absolutely steeped in a culture of wealth envy, exposed to levels of consumer and material accumulation that basically were only ever enjoyed by kings prior to this generation.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That famous quote about Americans always thinking of themselves as temporarily embarrassed millionaires rarely feels more true than when you're consuming media and pop culture.